This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
We made this. Hello everyone and welcome to the Xcast. The truth is in here. My name is Kurt North and thank you for joining us for our continuing coverage of the I Want to Believe Minute, the episodes that we're doing because we're crazy, where we look at the second X-Files film, I Want to Believe, minute by minute, as we did with the first film, Fight the Future. And thank you for joining me. We are here to discuss the following minute now, so we are looking at... What are we looking at? Minute 47, which starts from minute 46 to 46 minutes and 59 seconds. We're continuing on within the snow scene with the abandoned car and the abduction. And we are seeing Mulder talk to Drummy. Drummy's giving his story about what he believes has happened. Father Joe is introduced and sits inside the car where he tries to get a psychic premonition, which fails ultimately. And Whitney now believes that Father Joe has done all that he can. We end the minute with Mulder recognizing that something is in the snow, which we will find out in the following minute would be the medical bracelet. So thank you for everyone for joining us on this adventure that we're doing. We do value your feedback, so if you're enjoying the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review. You can connect with us on Patreon at patreon.com/thexcast. You can follow us on Instagram at the Xcast Pod and join us on our Facebook group, the X-Files Basement, the Xcast Podcast Fan Group. Thanks for tuning in and supporting the Xcast. It really does help us get seen, and thank you for all that you do. If you do leave a 5-star review, by all means, you don't need to give us a full sonnet. Just give us a quick 5-star review. That's all you need to do, and it will help us immensely. So thank you to everyone who has done that so far, and thank you for anyone who's considering doing that. So it's much appreciated. Joining me again for this episode as we're continuing on for this little block of mine is John Kenneth Muir. What did you know going into it? I mean, obviously you had a keen eye on what was happening in the ethos around this time, around the 2006 to 2008 time. X-Files had been off the air since 2002. There was repeated, there's going to be second movies, and then it didn't happen, it did happen. What are your memories of that time between 2002 and 2008 before the films greenlit and actually comes onto screen, before the week after Indiana Jones and the week before Batman?
Well, for me, and I don't know if I was just out of it at that point because my son was very little, but like I remember like the trailer came out. I was like, they made another X-Files movie? Why didn't I know about this? Right? And it's opening in 2 weeks? Right? What? Right? Wonderful. But then you're looking at it and I remember there was some talk, like, did the trailer seem deceptive? Was it suggesting aliens in the snow? What was it suggesting? And then maybe the trailer didn't really do the film a great service. For me, I think what the film does so well, I think regrounds the X-Files in what it was. I'm talking like second, third season X-Files. We're talking episodes like Irresistible, which I don't think got a name check here, but Beyond the Sea.
We talk about Beyond the Sea and Father Joe's visions, right, and Oubliette as well. We talk about Oubliette in those minutes I talked with Luke.
So sort of, seasons 1 through 3 of the X-Files, we were very invested in cases that, dare I say it, seemed more real. Look, I love every iteration of the X-Files, but you can't argue that like season 6, not that it's not good. I love it. I mean, I love Arcadia. I love Monday. I love those stories. I love Triangle, but they are much more high concept, sort of science fiction based. Look, we're doing body swaps, time loops, very different from we're encountering a killer who says he may be psychic, and is he psychic or is he messing with us? There's a lot of space between those kind of stories. And I love the X-Files in every iteration. I love rewatching, the later sort of more high concept sci-fi ones. And I love the early, more grounded ones. But it does sort of feel like this is saying, hey, did you go too far astray in season 9? If you think we did, come back to us now. Look, we're going to tell this like really grounded, really compelling, realistic thriller type story with more mild science fiction aspects than maybe what you've seen before. And it's going to be gripping, so for me, it was like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah. Listen, if you're a fan of the James Bond movies, they do this every couple movies. They tell a grounded story. The next one is less grounded. The next one, he's surfing tsunamis and driving invisible cars. And then they say, oh no, we have to reground it again. Right. Let's get back to basics. Right. They do this with Batman too. Right. And so for me, this was like a reestablishing 5 years later of like what the ground rules of the X-Files are. And to me, those ground rules are like superb cinematography that utilizes film grammar in the most traditional and accomplished sense, real character-oriented stories where the characters are really grappling with something serious and their relationship, and some story that maybe has one aspect of the unreal, but everything else around it is so real that you don't question it. At the time, I saw this as a regrounding, for sure. You have this huge budget Indiana Jones movie, then you have the X-Files, and then you have the Dark Knight, right? It's like, oh, wow. What unfortunate timing. What if it had come out 4 weeks earlier and people had a little time to discover it, talk about it, roll it over in their minds a little bit? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. It needed that discussion. It needed to be, did you actually watch that movie? It was intriguing what they were trying to do there. And then it would spiral. But when you've got something like a Nolan sequel and stuff to Batman, it's kind of like, oh, okay, that's going to be the talking point.
Right.
What do you think to Drummy, Whitney, and Father Joe in this minute then?
This moment ends, which I think is so perfect. They walk out to the car and Father Joe sits down, and it's like, again, think of the representation. What does this symbolize? Like he's literally in the driver's seat. He gets down and sits in the car and he's like literally in the driver's seat in this case. And everybody knows it. He's given them every clue they have. He's leading them. He sits down literally in the driver's seat and he's in the driver's seat. And then to give us a reverse, says, nope, I don't know what's going on. They're like, okay, we're done. So it's fascinating. It's fascinating how carefully and cleverly moments like this are constructed. And unless you have an eye, towards symbolism and, abstraction and things like that, which obviously Chris Carter does, it's easy to like just gloss over this moment. I actually think it's really important. It's showing him literally and metaphorically in the driver's seat, and then perfect for this point in the film, giving us the reverse. Nope, I have no idea what's going on here. Right? And of course, that's terrible. It's terrible for Mulder because now he's lost. Now Whitney backs out. Drummy is confirmed in his skepticism. So I love this moment. I think it's actually pretty powerful.
There's a moment where it keeps it kind of quite real because the camera shot is of Mulder going again against Drummy because Drummy's going kind of, oh, isn't that a surprise kind of thing. There's a moment where Mulder has a go at Drummy, but the camera stays on him even though you can't see Mulder's face because it obviously just keeps that take in. And I quite like the fact it feels, you was talking about like how it feels real. That
right,
it didn't intercut, it didn't do a two shot. It just felt, I will stick on this one camera for that one moment and just allow Mulder to speak to Drummy, but not, even though it may be slightly not ideally what they may have wanted to go with, they'll just keep that in, which I did find interesting. So I've got a couple of stats that I've pulled up, and then we're going to go into the next minute where we're heading into the swimming pool to fill up a little bit of time, like we have been doing on occasion when there's a little bit of gap. And apparently in 2008, the number of people missing in the United States was around 778,164. That was in 2008. At its peak of almost 1 million in 1998, it's now down in the 10 to 20s to around 500,000. So the fact that the trend has ticked down up until the pandemic, and then in 2022, it did tick back up again ever so slightly, but it's still around 500,000. But there's also some identification of like technologies like Facebooks and the mobile phones of the world as well. You've got to bear in mind that people are found a lot quicker. So I found that fascinating that there's a gradual decline, but around this time of the movie, there was still around 750,000 people in the US identified as missing people.
Very sobering, that statistic, right? To think about that.
in Virginia, where this is based, at the current open cases is 351 in 2024.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, and the highest amount is actually in California, 3,362 open cases currently in 2024. It's certainly interesting, and it's an interesting concept to make use of. I mean, obviously, likes of TV shows, movies will always use like abductions and missing persons and stuff like that. But as I say, it was just something to pull up, because you talk about the bleakness of this movie. That is the fact, isn't it? It's so remote that car is in such a remote place. You talk about how it looks, but the actual think about it from a perspective of it's off road. How many people have even gone past that area in the last 48, 72 hours? There's hardly been anyone. So the fact that it's so remote is quite scary in itself.
And they say at some point, like, she got out of the car and like walked and fell asleep and froze to death. And you're like, oh my gosh, imagine living in a place where your car could break down, you could go find for help, and you look for help and freeze to death. You know, that's a terrifying, possibility. The wintriness and coldness and bleakness, visually and, thematically of this, to me, it's just really beautiful and powerful. And it's the thing that separates, I think, this film and gives this film so much distinction, is this wintry feeling that suffuses it.
Next episode is going to be minute 48, where Mulder sees the bracelet by the side of the car, and we look into the back of the car and see there's a frozen bathing suit that Mulder puts together that we need to go to the nearest pool. So we'll do that next. So until next time, trust no one.
It's time for today's Lucky Land horoscope with Victoria Cash.
Life's gotten mundane, so shake up the daily routine and be adventurous with a trip to Lucky Land. You know what they say, your chance to win starts with a spin. So go to LuckyLandSlots.com to play over 100 social casino-style games for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Get lucky today at LuckyLandSlots.com.
Available to players in the U.S., excluding Washington and Michigan. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.